this video. So yeah, jump on, say hello, let us know you're there, let us know you can hear me, that it's all working right, and we'll get Marc on pretty soon. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this chat, talking about everything, well, a lot of masculine, feminine, a lot of men talk, what it is to be a man, to be a dad, raising our young boys and things like that. Marc was he's a former special operations veteran. He's founder of the Masculine Edge, does a lot of men's coaching. He's got a lot of good stuff going on. I use some of his nootropic products and some whey protein powder and things like that. So he's got a few things out there, and he really knows his stuff. So really looking forward to it. Again, let us know if you're on. Comment, say hello, where you're from, things like that, and I'll be getting Marc on here just about now. All right, I'll send him a bit of an invite, and he'll be on here very shortly. Okay, there we go. All right. Jasmine Lay, I see you there. I see you watching. Say hello. Let us know you're there. Let us know if you can hear me, and anyone else as well. And we'll get this underway pretty shortly. Okay. So again, yeah, it's I can't wait for it to happen. And talking about masculinity, it's gonna be pretty epic. So here's Marc now. We'll just let him in. Here he is. Hey, buddy. You have to unmute yourself there.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yep, that's better.
Excellent.
All right, we're on. Good to have you, mate. We're live on Facebook.
Excellent. I trust it's all working fine.
Yeah, it all seems to be. We've got a few people on watching now. Say hello if you can hear us. Make sure, let us know that it's all working well and you're here. We've got James, Jasmine, Fiona, a few people jumping on, a couple of others. So yeah, it's great. Thanks for coming on, Marc. It's I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Yeah, awesome, man. It's always good to have a chat. We always seem to talk about some really interesting stuff every time we have a phone call. So let's see what unfolds tonight. Yeah,
that's it. And I guess a big part of the reason I got you on here, I mean, Primal Connections, we work a lot with families, parents and kids. And I guess going on just what's going on today around the world, I thought it'd be a really good thing to tackle masculinity. And, I guess I'll just throw it out there from the start, the toxic masculinity and all that sort of stuff. So I thought who better to come on and talk about it. So if you can introduce yourself to the people watching, what is it you do?
Yeah, so like you've already introduced, my name's Marc, and I have a 11-year career in the military. So I was in special operations for Australia. I was an engineer attached to SAS and 2 Commando on not only overseas operations in Afghanistan, but also domestic counterterrorism here for Tactical Assault Group East, which is 2 Commando's asset for domestic counterterrorism over on the East Coast in Sydney. So I did that for a long time, about 11 years in total, and had an amazing career. Loved every single moment I had in the military, and I got out about 5 years ago.
Yeah, right. It's not that long ago, I suppose.
Mate, it's gone so quick. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and well, I suppose in that time, I mean, in 5 years, like looking at what I know of that you've achieved so far, that's pretty huge. Like, what have you achieved in that time, that 5 years?
Well, I mean, like, to be super honest, for the first couple of years, I was actually still stuck in a identity crisis. So one of the big things that, not only military people have, but men have in general. I'll stick with men here because that's the topic that I cover.
Yep.
And I know the most. And that is that, at some stage, a lot of men go through identity crisis themselves. It's a matter of, am I living my purpose? Am I really living my truths? Do I know my values? Am I living accordingly to those types of things? And I had a massive, massive identity crisis, and I spun massively out of control. And, that whole story, most people have, like, where they just hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was hitting rock bottom. After I got out of the military, I I left a relationship that I thought I was going to marry this woman. That's how I envisaged it. And yep, I did it all. Like I literally self-sabotaged every single area of my life, like all the most important ones. I somehow got rid of all my money and spent it on life experiences, which, by the way, is not a bad thing. And yeah, look, hit alcohol really, really hard. Self-sabotage a lot of stuff, and it took a lot. I would actually say it was only my previous experience in personal development that probably pulled me out of the gutter, to be honest. So if I had been, when I say average, I just mean someone who doesn't maybe is not particularly in the personal development space. Just the average. Yeah.
Well, I guess everyone has personal development at some level, but I mean, a lot of people, I guess, what I see most commonly for those who sort of shirk the whole idea of it is it's just avoidance. Like a lot of people avoid developing because in order to develop, you sort of need to admit somewhere that you can develop.
100%. It's painful.
Absolutely. But if you don't admit it and you don't sort of go that extra level, you just keep revolving around in this circle of where you are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You nailed it. Yeah. A lot of people sit there as well. So it's like comfortably numb, right? That's how we know it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, I suppose I can't speak from experience, but I mean, getting out of what you described there, which is, as Sarah has commented, sounds fully badass. Getting out of that and falling into the civilian world, I mean, trying to find a purpose in that, I guess, that void that you've now got of the adrenaline and the purpose, really. I mean, coming from military and what I've sort of studied of it and the little bit that I know of it, you've always got some purpose. You're part of a group that has a purpose, and 100%. You have a purpose within that group. Like you're really covered in that area.
Yes, totally. And, being a boy of 18 years old and joining straight from, school, straight to the military, I didn't know anything different. And, being in the military from 18 to 29, like, I just thought that was normal. I thought everybody had a full crew of like men and brothers that they would literally die for in a second, and had these mad times where they were just, I guess, living their best lives and adrenaline-fueled lives just day in, day out. I thought that was normal. And only, getting out of the military, I started to realize, wow, no, if you want that type of life, like that's not normal. And I had to create a new identity around that and fill the voids that I was used to having in the military, like you just very excellently mentioned, which was mostly adrenaline.
Yeah. And I guess another thing that comes to mind with, the difficulty of sort of reconstructing your life after the military is, I guess, in the military, you've got discipline put on you. Like your discipline can come from the external, and you're pushed and that sort of thing. And then when you get out, you have to find your self-discipline. Like you have to find it internally.
Oh yeah.
You struggle with that a lot? Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. And so in hindsight, from looking back at all the lessons I learned in the military, one of those being accountability, or what I call in my masculine edge protocol, which is step 5, accountability or brotherhood. I didn't realize how important the people that you surround yourself, like how important that is. Yeah. And we all know, we've heard that quote, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around the most. Yeah. And I had just been desensitized with just excellent quality, like alpha male role models in my life that were just operating at the highest degree of their professionalism. And I got desensitized and I thought that was normal. And then when I shifted outside the military, I had to proactively go out of my way to find those extra relationships where I just thought they were normal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like all this stuff that's sort of handed to you. I mean, there's, I guess, what most of us civilians see when we think of the military is like this extremely hard work. Nothing's given to you. Nothing's for free. Like extreme discipline and working hard. But that is completely true in one area. But in these other areas, there's the fundamentals or foundations before that are given to you. And that's that's what you lose when you come out of it. So I guess that's where there's benefits and drawbacks in everything. I mean, growing up without a military sort of background, or not joining the military, or sort of growing up without being taught or given certain things,
Yep.
you have these voids that you're seeking to fill from the start.
Yep.
So, you know, things that we're given. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is a lot of people are worried about fucking the kids up in some way, right?
Definitely.
I don't give them enough of this. I need to give them more of that. And there's really no way. I mean, if you don't fuck them up at all, isn't that kind of fucking them up? If you give them everything.
Well said. It's, you know, you do or you don't. Like every single thing you do, you nailed it. There's a drawback to everything. If you think you're being positive, and generally speaking, you are being positive, there's still negative drawbacks to that. The things that they're missing out because of the exposures that you are putting them to. Like, you know, we can all, I'm sure, relate somehow to that.
I mean, if I know growing up, like I didn't have a lot of education around handling money. And I wouldn't change that at all, because it meant that was a void which I had to find a way to fill
in your growth. Yeah.
So there wasn't a construct already there on this is how you handle money, this is how you manage it, this is how you make it. Yeah. I could do it from scratch. I had a blank canvas.
Yes. Yeah.
So it was really good in that way.
Yeah, that's awesome. And is that something that like you proactively work with now that you've got children, and you kind of, do you have a way that you educate them now?
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's where patterns can form. So
yep.
If I had, like, money is just a great example to use, but this applies to everything.
Definitely.
So if I had no education around money and I thought, God, that's so important, people need this education, and I educate myself, and then I think I'm going to give my kids everything as far as education on handling money.
Yeah.
So then they have no void in that.
Yep.
And they don't go out and proactively find a way to handle money, and they don't go and learn from as many different people as they can, because they've already got this structure in place.
Yeah.
And so then their kids, they probably won't teach them anything about money because they think it's just a given. So you've got this pattern formed.
Exactly. But also on the flip side to that, the positive, that is that, you know, they have been instilled all of these amazing subconscious habits that they particularly like might not have picked up on as a child, being conscious about learning about money. They just would have seen their parents, how they acted, seen their money habits around that, picked them up. And that's why, you know, for lack of better word, we can see dumb people these days who are just rich. They, you know, they're wealthy, and it comes to them in ease and in lots of abundance, because it's the subconscious habits that, you know, they've picked up from 0 to 7 from their parents. That very important, crucial stage of growth for children. And you talk about it a fair bit. Like I hear it, and I hear some of your stuff that you talk about. So I know you're all about that as well.
Yeah. That 0 to 7 is definitely, it's huge. And I mean, in saying that, whenever I bring that up, I always like to say, like, it's not lost after 7. You know, our brain is so plastic, it's so malleable that I mean, between 1 or 0 and 7, it is so easy to imprint those habits and sort of get it right in there. It might take a bit more work after 7, but it's not impossible at all by any means.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So,
that's it.
And I really like, and what you're getting at there, those little habits, those subconscious habits that we don't even realize we're doing, that make all the difference.
Oh yeah, the 1%ers.
From what I've read, I mean, I love reading about you know, the true stories and the autobiographies from special forces and operations and that, and they talk about that a lot. It's those tiny little habits that you have to get right.
That's it. Yep.
Yeah, it's doing one thing properly, and then the next thing properly, and then the next thing properly.
Yeah.
What
exactly.
It comes down to.
Yeah, it's like how do I describe it? It's like 1 meter targets versus, you know, 20 meter targets. Or it can actually be brought back to the 80-20 rule. You know, most people are looking for that one big thing that's going to change everything. However, unconsciously in the military, one of the biggest things that you're taught is every single little decision actually matters. Whether you realize that consciously or not, you're given an ultimatum every single step at every single stage, where it's a line in the sand decision. It's not like should I? I don't know. I'll just leave that. I won't decide anything. I'll leave that for later. No, decide now. Choose. Fork in the road. Take the easy way or take the right way. Right now, do it. You can't move until you make a decision.
As it, pull the trigger. I was talking to someone earlier, a bit earlier on, and talking about this decision anxiety, right? And where it's about, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make the right decision, and so forth. And I'm like, well, with anxiety, you know, there's always a timeline. There's something you're fearing and that sort of thing. Yeah. And a bit out of anxiety is that you're living in the future, whether it's 1 minute or 1 hour or 1 year.
Yeah.
But you find once you make that decision, it's no longer in the future. So you no longer can be anxious about it. And if you don't make the right decision, you'll make the decision right.
Yep.
And you'll learn from it. Whatever. So you just make the decision, like you say. If you already have some sort of education or some sort of experience on it, you'll know if you're going to make the easy decision or the right decision.
That's right.
And that's it. You just make it.
Yeah, exactly. And to add on to that as well, it's I've lost my chain of thought. Sorry, it's gone.
No,
It'll come back. It'll come back.
It always does.
Yeah.
So that's like, I really like how that ties into the masculine edge and that sort of thing, because that's one great characteristic of a leader, right? Is decisiveness. And one thing that I know a lot of feminine look for in masculine is decisiveness.
Correct. Yeah, it's huge.
That confidence.
Yeah, and not only, you know, I like to really explore not only just talking about men and women. We're talking about energy here. We're talking about masculine, feminine energy with both. Like both humans have both. So you know, women can be, you know, very masculine in their decisions as well, in their attitudes and their behavior. And decisiveness is a key quality in any person's success. I think it's pretty, it makes sense to have a lot of decisiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's hard to say that, like, if we're talking career wise, and let's say, you know, women in the workplace and career and that, it's hard to say that our industries are built around masculine traits and you know, that masculine traits will succeed. It's just kind of the natural flow of it. And that's where, you know, a lot of women who want to succeed in their career and push far and all that sort of thing, they just learn to sort of harness their masculine side and bring their masculine side out and show those traits. Because like you said, we all have both energies. We all have masculine and feminine. And it's just about getting to know ourselves and understand ourselves and how we work and say, all right, it's time to bring out the masculine. Or sometimes for us men, it might be time to bring out the feminine.
Correct. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are getting up in arms about, oh, there's too much masculine this, or there's too much feminine this, and they're trying to take sides, or they may unconsciously take sides and start victimizing the opposite. It's really more about what, and also the Masculine Edge Protocol, which is my coaching business, and the Masculine Edge philosophy for me is really about the education of, you actually need both, but you to realize that, you know, for our society to progress, progressiveness and direction and decisiveness is a masculine trait, no matter if you're female or male. So us as a society, when we move forward, we're using our masculine energy. And when we're reassessing and redeveloping and building, you know, and caring and taking care of like all the other important stuff, like a redevelopment, that's like a feminine energy. So it's like, go, stop, go, stop, go, stop. We need both. Like, we should stop victimizing each other. Yeah,
there's absolutely nothing about, like, in anything I've read or learned or taught or anything, there's nothing about better or worse. It's just different. You need both.
Exactly.
I mean, if everyone was masculine, we'd be stuffed.
And this is where it also gets into attraction as well. You know, like the reason that, and I'm purely just talking about heterosexual men here. Obviously, there's lots of different categories and things going on. But, you know, the reason that we love our women is because they have these beautiful feminine traits, and we love them most for that. And that's what we're attracted to. That's what we go after. And a lot of women are forgetting that, I think, as well.
You know? Absolutely. And I think it's happening both ways, because there's so much shaming around, right? What I've said at the start, that toxic masculinity, that we're sort of, I guess some people are afraid for that to show their masculine side, but also there's so much shame around it. And my God. I think there's a lot of wounded feminine. And I know in some books we can trace it right back to World War I, but to sort of talk about at an individual level, because I think everything we see at an individual level happens at a sort of global level really as well, a communal level.
Correct.
But you've got a wounded feminine who has a wound that may be associated with the masculine. So she's been hurt by a man or by a father or something like that.
Yep.
And she may be now afraid of that. So she may find that she's now living primarily in her masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not her natural energy, then there's all sorts of friction, there's physiological effects, there's all sorts of stuff going on. And every masculine man that she meets him as a masculine because of that fear and that wound. And there's just a clash.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. There's like at a global level, there will not be any change unless we decide and take on the responsibility and the leadership to change ourselves and build ourselves and develop ourselves and just lead with our best foot forward. So naturally, I'm a more masculine energy, and I harness my feminine energy when I need it. So I know that individually. Imagine every single person on the planet was just, able to have the correct or right amount of education at the right moment, at the right time in their lives, and they worked on themselves. Like instead of pointing the finger, you need to change this. How about you just turn the finger around and you go, oh, I need to change this, and then everybody else as a individual can fix themselves, and then obviously as a collective we can grow. There's a lot of that happening, I think, of the blaming, and not enough of the fixing self.
Yeah, that's huge. Absolutely, that's huge. And I think that's the primary reason people point the finger externally, because they just don't want to look inside.
Painful. Yeah.
Everyone has a glimpse of what's inside themselves, and like you say, painful. It is painful. So we just sort of look outside and we try to find something else we can change and occupy ourselves with, to distract from our own stuff that we just kind of need to tackle. And like you said, if everyone, I don't know if it's a fantasy or what, but if everyone could look inside themselves and work on themselves, make your own bed and check your own house before you criticize someone else's, then bang, that's how the world changes. Not by an individual changing the world, but by an individual changing their own world first, which is themselves. And that's it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. That's it. We've just solved bloody world problem number one right there. We're done.
That's it. Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. How do we get this on the president's desk, hey? For every country.
That's it. That's it. And that's the thing. It's so powerful. Like this driving people to avoid their pain and look outside. It's so powerful. You could shout it from the rooftops, and people will just use a little bit of logic to turn it around. And because logic is it's so malleable, it's so plastic. I think you can use logic for anything you want. People are not going to move unless they're in enough pain.
Going back to exactly what we said before, comfortably numb. There's a bracket, there's a spectrum, and there's I'm in extreme pain, I'm in extreme pleasure, or there's that comfortably numb bracket in the middle. Was the majority of people. It's like 80% of people in that bracket. Now, unless you slip down the scale into enough pain and you're like, boom, that's a slingshot, get your butt up, do something, pull the effing trigger, get it done. I believe that's the biggest catalyst to change. Unless you're probably, super educated and you're sitting in that massive bracket, and then, I would say the bulk of the people would just stay there, but some people might change. The biggest catalyst is pain, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's like, you see people a lot that sort of fall down into that pain. They get that slingshot forward, and there might not have quite been enough pain, and they don't quite crack that bracket. They don't hit that glass ceiling, and they'll fall back into the pain again. It's like, if it's a slingshot, it's like it hasn't quite been pulled back enough. And the more pain, you pull it back, and they say, all right, that's enough. That's it. I'm drawing a line in the sand. I'm changing today.
Mate, I've done that hundreds of times. And I would continue to. I think everybody's journey is just a slingshot forward. It's like that 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think it has to be that way, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
No one just excels and excels and excels. It's that whole fail forward. You will only prosper from the mistakes that you learn from,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're not failing, you're not moving forward. You're not learning. You're not growing.
And then, to add on to that, you have to accept, I've found in my journey, that acceptance of knowing the future pain to come. I'm like, I know in 1 week I'm going to be in pain. I know in 1 week I don't want to do the thing. I know in 2 weeks I've got to meet this person. I know in 3 weeks I said I've got to do that thing, or I've got to be at a certain stage, and acknowledging that pain ahead of time using a tracking system helps a lot, because if you don't have a tracking and measuring system, then that's how a lot of people can be in procrastination and confusion, because they don't know where their path, their journey, or their mission is leading to, and they don't know the increments along the way, which ties into celebrating a success at every single step. Oh man, we could talk for hours.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, if it's not measured, how do you know when you've succeeded, and how do you know when you're on the path?
100%.
So you could be 90% of the way there, but you haven't measured anything, so you've got no idea, and you're just like, this is a lost cause,
and you give up. And you give up because, like, you think that, the actual goal is, a million miles away, when in reality it's just like next week.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple of questions here too.
Awesome.
First one I see here, I'll just scroll back a little bit. Sarah, James Murphy said, hardest thing to find is a purpose after military service. James served himself as well.
Cool. Yep.
The hardest part and most disappointing part is not being able to find that brotherhood afterwards.
Yeah.
For
sure. Do you want me to elaborate on that, or?
Yeah. If you've got something to say,
Yeah, 100%. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was he asking, how do I find, or what could help to find a purpose after life after service? Is that what he was saying?
He was just saying, just saying the hardest thing is to find a purpose, and the most disappointing part is not being able to find that brotherhood.
Yeah. So two-part question.
Yeah, it is just a two-part
question.
Yeah.
The first one, that obviously I have a full course that I do it, but obviously just condense it into like 15 seconds. You want to look at, basically where you lose time, where you lose track of time in your life. It could be anything. Stop thinking about just career, like any single thing, any hobby, any interest, anything that you lose track of time. So what was the guy's name again?
James.
So James, wherever you lose track in time, stop thinking that has to be the be all and end all thing right now. That's just your next step forward. That's just opening the door to the next room, brother. Like, that's it. You just got to hit that thing. If it's a hobby, dive straight into that hobby. Go into, your local meetups and all that type of thing, either in person or online. Delve into that hobby that could lead to a career. Now, if it can lead to a career, great, because you're going to be doing the thing that you love, the thing that you're good at, and you're going to be paid for it as well, which is going to make you super, super, super happy. Don't worry about everything else. Don't worry about all the details. Stop thinking so much. Pull the fucking trigger, act. You'll find that your purpose lies within your hobbies, their interests, the things that you lose track with right now. And the thing that's your purpose and your hobby right now might not be the thing that, is in a year, but the gateway, the door to the next phase of your life, I could virtually guarantee it, brother, is within that thing.
Perfect. Perfect. Absolutely. And that's, I think, what I can say there is letting our actions, like being honest with our actions and our hobbies and what we want to do, because they're all the clues to our purpose.
Correct.
Right. The fight that we want to take on, the big things that we want to change in the world and in our lives and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We find purpose in that. And when we find purpose, we can find self-worth.
Yeah.
And that may be another struggle after military, I would imagine. Yeah. Finding self-worth, like after it's been sort of just like the purpose has been given to you for so long. Yeah. And in such a big way. Yeah. You find that purpose, and then if it means something to you, it's something that you really want to change and affect in the world, then as you see yourself doing the little things to make the change and affect that particular purpose, you see the value in yourself and the worth in yourself. Yep, exactly. As you make a difference.
Obviously, because you're making an impact, you know what I mean? But I would say a step before that is developing the identity around, because obviously that's internal. The stuff we were just talking about is external. So if you want to fix the internal stuff first, and you want to build that self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-trust, which is a huge thing, that literally comes down to just doing what you say you're going to do. And it starts off small. You know what? I'm going to get up at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You know what? I'm going to cook myself dinner today. You know what? I'm going to go for a walk around the block today. And you just tick off those minor items. And it's not even a matter of the intensity of the actual activities. It's a matter of the frequency in which you do things and you tick off the box that you do that you say you're going to do. That builds self-trust and self-confidence. It also over time builds self-competence, which is like a leverage point for self-confidence as well. So, you know, those small steps, like build that self-trust.
That's awesome. That's really good. I think we've covered that pretty well. Sarah's got a couple of questions here. Why is the corporate world naturally masculine? I guess that's something I sort of touched on a little bit earlier. And again, I think that's, it's sort of something that's naturally come about. In saying that, I think it's important to remember that the market controls everything.
Yep.
Right? The market of any industry, any corporate world or non-blue collar, whatever it is, the market controls everything. And generally speaking, the women control the market.
Right? I like that. And there's a lot of validation there. There's a lot of truth there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's another one of those things, without going too deep into it, where a dynamic that exists on an individual level, or on just, you know, one man and one woman or that sort of thing, it exists on a world level too. And it's all the same sort of dynamic, just blown up or chunked down. And I guess when it comes to the corporate world and that, there's a lot of masculine traits that will get you somewhere. There is, like we said, the decisiveness. There's that, like, men will stop at nothing. Okay, you have some men, such as the CEOs and things like that, that is their single point focus. I'm going to lead this business. I'm going to that is what I'm going to do. My career, that's it. And they're willing to sacrifice everything. And get 4 hours of sleep a night and work for the other 20 hours of that day towards that goal. Whereas a feminine are naturally more of a multitasking flow, sort of take care of everything sort of thing. And again, neither is right or wrong or good or bad. They're all necessary. And don't be told, like for the women, don't be told that you have to go and chase a CEO's job. You don't have to go and do that. Okay, because there's plenty that are happy to do whatever it is you do. I mean, President Kennedy, his mother was quoted as saying, "My purpose is to raise world leaders, or raise leaders."
Well, she nailed that, didn't she?
Absolutely, she nailed it. Like, and that's huge. That's awesome. I mean, if she was in another generation or in another environment and was told, "No, you have to go and compete with men for their career. You have to be an engineer. You have to, you know, go and wear a white collar and do all that sort of thing," she might have sort of, if she took that on and got confused and things like that, and she would have never lived her purpose and been miserable.
Correct. Yeah.
So I think it's really about doing whatever it is that lights you up and means something to you. And if it is chasing that CEO position, then you'll bring out those masculine traits, and naturally you'll find a way. You'll probably even influence it with your feminine as well, because it's all important. It's all part of it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think also as well, like, it was Sarah, that was her name, right? Sarah. Yep. Cool. So like Sarah, I would actually say that you've got an advantage, right? You're already keen in business, and it sounds like you're ambitious. You want to, you know, dominate and be successful in a business type scenario, career, or your own business for yourself. So like, you should frame that as a advantage, because here's why. Most men are too egotistical to step into their feminine. So they're only operating from one half of the sphere, which is their masculine, dominant. Whereas you yourself, you can step into both. You can play the masculine role and you can play the feminine role. That is an advantage that 80% of your competitors don't have, the other men. But also on a different level, I'm talking on more of a global level, you know, I think she said, why is it so masculine dominated? You got to think business is about progress. Business is about success. So the attribute and the energy that's needed for that is decisiveness. It's moving forward. It's progression, which is predominantly a masculine energy anyway. So if you can hone in your masculine energy, look after yourself, be you, tap in your intuition, make sure that you're doing this for the right reasons and you're fulfilling your purpose and you're working towards your goals and mission, then like, if you can harness your masculine and you can harness your feminine and be like, you know, a badass bitch and be like a, you know, like a also humble and, really good in your wins as well, then everyone's going to be, liking you. So you're just going to naturally progress in the world anyway. And what a combo to have an excellent masculine and a feminine energy. Like, fuck
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, how you do see it quite often with even the men that sort of work their way up, and they often find themselves coming undone by being so masculine and being sort of unreachable and unapproachable, right? Because they don't sort of allow that feminine energy in here and there. So yeah,
we'll just look at like high profile CEOs. You think about like they need executive assistants, which are predominantly feminine. Why? Because they're missing a feminine trait to handle all their affairs, like handle all their business behind the scenes, where they're just doing, execute, decision. But they need a feminine woman who's very good at her job and, very good with all the organization stuff, which is a feminine energy. Like they need another person to do that, where you could probably do that yourself. Yeah,
perfect. That's awesome. How do we, Sarah asks again, how do we raise boys to embrace their masculine energy? This is, that's a great question and a big part of why I was excited to get you on here. Yeah. How do we raise boys to embrace their masculine energy?
Oh, man, it's a huge topic, isn't it? So I would have to firstly kind of like state that I don't have children yet. So what I'm discussing here is from a point of someone who, like I said, doesn't have children, but I'm working every single day on myself so that as my future children, I can be the best person for them. That's one of my biggest drivers. And, I always think about like, it pops into my mind, like, if my future children were watching me right now, would this be a good decision? Would this, would they look back at me and be proud of me for this? The person that I'm building and all that sort of stuff. But to actually go back a step, I think one of the first things is I've got to touch on this point, and that is that hopefully they have a father figure in the picture or a masculine energy person, male in the picture, who is, in your opinion, a good man, whatever that definition is for you. Hopefully you have a male role model there for them.
And they'll always have a father figure. And for some kids, it ends up being in a video game, but there's always a masculine figure that they look to. They'll find that somewhere.
They'll fill the gap.
It might help to find who that is or what that is.
Yeah.
And like you're saying.
Yeah, 100%. So they'll fill that gap either way. And it's you either choose who it's going to be or they're going to choose it for you. So pick out these people, these role models, and start developing a list of like great masculine traits and great masculine role models that are at a global level, an intermediate level, and then also at a personal level as well within your friends and family, the people that you want to bring in, or maybe there is already somebody there. If that person is the wrong person and they've that male doesn't have the traits that you want, I'd actually question why you're with that person in the first place. You've got to be thinking about I know that's a tough question to understand and to even contemplate. But if you want the best for your children, you want the best for yourself, then you got to start making harsh decisions now. You got to, pay that price now for the pleasure later. And, but my first protocol would be develop a list of the really good quality masculine traits that you love in potentially like actors or, role models or, coaches or other people out in the industry in the world, and start to bring those into your children's environments in some which way.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's really cool. I had something there as well, but I just lost it, just like you did earlier.
It'll come back.
I guess another thing there is, what do you perceive as toxic masculinity? It's a term that gets thrown around and I don't even know what it means. I don't think anyone knows what it means.
It's hard to define. I probably wouldn't even throw a definition of it. But if I was just to like speak openly right now, one of the first things that comes to mind is, and we're kind of just talking about it before as well, is that there's no one that's really pointing the blame. A lot of people are pointing the blame. I don't think that's the right thing. What we've got to start to realize is that it's probably a lack of masculinity and the correct right of masculinity, that people are pointing at toxic masculinity. They're pointing at it going, toxic masculinity. No, I actually think what the actual underlying thing is they're trying to say is that it's not the right type of masculinity. And I think there is a lack of masculinity in today's day and age because it has been started to look down upon and victimized and all that sort of stuff. So men who mean well, have the right intention, they just they don't have the courage to stand out by themselves and to speak up and particularly say what their authentic expression is, which most of the time is pretty good. They're pretty on point usually. Not everyone's a dickhead. Most people are fairly good within their intentions.
Yeah.
And if they were just to speak up, I think that masculinity, or the good kind of masculinity, whatever the opposite of toxic masculinity is, I think a lot of men would find, and in the society would find, that a lot of people stop victimizing and pointing at this, toxic masculinity, which is basically, in my opinion, it's just guys who aren't taking enough responsibility, I would say. Just cruising in life and not taking enough responsibility and not being, first and foremost, their own leader for themselves to make themselves feel good and be happy inside, but also that will affect the immediate people, in your vicinity as well. If every man took that on, because we were talking about that before, if you just fix yourself, right, you're going to affect the people in your immediate, friends and family influence.
Absolutely.
Circle. So,
absolutely.
You're right. What is toxic masculinity? Just a lack of
I think
leader.
I think it's a lack of masculinity. I think it's two things. I think it's one, a lack of masculinity, and I think it's also the people who are constantly pointing and trying to point it out and say that's toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Right. It's a perspective that lives inside them, and it's a reflection on their own relationship with masculinity.
Correct.
So again, might come back to the wounds that they have in their personal life associated with masculinity that they haven't addressed.
Yeah.
And instead of addressing it, the easiest way is to say that's toxic masculinity, that's toxic. If I was to say, okay, that is toxic masculinity, if I had to say that, I would say, yeah, it's a lack of masculinity, because it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Full stop. It's a good thing, just like femininity is too, a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. When done right.
Yeah, when it's done right, when it's applied at the right time. Maybe it's when masculinity is applied at the wrong time that it's perceived as toxic. Yeah.
And look, let's be honest, it's a hot topic right now. It's not like, I would say toxic masculinity is beating extreme feminism right now, and when, obviously you have a loose understanding of what I mean. It's just obviously the opposite of toxic masculinity. They're both probably in war together, and those types of people who take those positions are who don't want to heal their own pain. So how much easier is it to point the finger and label something and go, oh, that's what it's labeled. Oh yeah, I'm jumping on that train because I don't want to heal my own shit. So I'm jumping on that train.
Plus you get to be part of a community.
Exactly. Who doesn't want that? Brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
And that delves into the human psyche of the deep belonging and the sense of wanting to be a part of a tribe.
Yes.
No matter what it is, we're all searching for our tribe. And if we don't want to heal our pain, we're going to attach ourselves to toxic demographics.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you come to peace and come to terms and really find your masculinity, for the men out there, or for the naturally masculine people out there, and you get to that, for lack of a better word, you get to that alpha stage, where it's like, my tribe will come to me. Yep. And they will.
Yep.
And you're because you're satisfied with yourself. You have this alpha. You are your own hero, your own leader. And so you're not seeking it. You're not searching for it. It's not a void that we were talking about before.
Nailed it.
So
nailed it.
And people who are looking for a leader will see you. You'll stand out in the crowd.
100%. And one of the things that constantly goes through my mind is one of the healthy traits of a good masculine person, I'll just say person, is that they are, more often than not, they're a producer, not a consumer. So exactly like you just labeled, they're doing things, they're waiting for their tribe to come to them. They're producing things. They're a producer of results. They're a producer of their environment. I love that quote from the movie The Departed. And the main character, the old guy in the start, what does he say? I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you create your environment.
That's for parents.
Exactly. So do you want to, and this whole producing consuming thing, especially if you're a business owner, if you're just consuming social media content all day, you're a consumer. Are you really contributing? You're not really, that's not a leadership trait. But if you start producing your own content, guess what? You've got a voice. Now you've got influence. Now you're solidifying your values. You're spreading your values out into the public, and the people with the same values are now coming to you.
Yeah. Spot on. That's like something I've found that's really has happened organically. Like I started my Primal Connections in August last year, really not that long ago. And I have a very strong purpose behind it, a very strong story behind it. And I've spent like years intensely doing my research, doing my study and things like that. And I'm confident I know what I'm talking about. I'll just put it out there and just go from there. Like you just put it out there, put the value out there. You want to help people. I do it for a purpose, it's not for money. It's not anything like that. The money comes so I can help more people. I can spread it further. I can do the message. I can make more change. But it's about the end game, the purpose, right? I want to push myself out of business. So
Love it.
And I mean, people talk about competition, and they even talk about like getting people like yourself on here who, from one perspective, that we're competition, but really, to me, my only competition are those who are seeking to the opposite of my mission, which is to reconnect families, to change the trajectory of our youth, and that sort of thing. My only competition is anyone who's working towards the opposite of that.
You know what? Like I was applying for a coaching, not a position, like a coaching program one time. And the sales dude on the call, this is one of the most prolific, lessons I learned about being humble with your competitors. And I was on the sales call, and I wasn't necessarily a correct fit for that particular company. The sales dude could have just hung up the phone. Do you know what he did? He actually just said, look, you're not a complete fit for us. However, these are the other guys that might be able to help you out. These are the company's names. Yeah, they're competitors, but look, I'd rather you get helped than just send you on your way right now. So there you go. And that left me with the bet. Like I refer people to that company and say, like, oh, check those guys and see if they're right fit for you. Because I know they'll look after you no matter what. If you're right fit or you're not, they're going to look after you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's beautiful.
That's huge. That's one thing I love about the industry. Yeah, one thing I was going to say there too, what we were talking about, it just came back to me. Earlier on, we said that there's that quote that most of us know where the average of the 5 people we hang around the most.
Yeah.
If you want to be a leader, and remember, most families are about 4 or 5 people, right? Your average nuclear family, 4 people.
Yep.
So if you want to bring your children up and bring your family up and things like that, remember, you are one of the people they hang around the most. So, and they're going to be the average of that. So the more you raise yourself up, the more you're raising them up naturally. They hang around you. Like you said, they pick up on all your subconscious habits, all the little traits and all those tiny little things that make the biggest differences in their life, those little habits.
100%, man. But
everything we say is
connected. You want to be the leader.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, as a parent, it's your moral obligation to be the leader. That's naturally going to happen. But I think I did a post a couple of weeks ago. It's like, there are 3 types of people in the world. There are sheep, there are wolves, and there are sheepdogs. Which category do you fit into?
Yeah.
Like, rhetorical question.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. James said arrogance can potentially be portrayed as toxic masculinity. Yeah, I guess arrogance is a trait which, just like the other 4,500 traits, I mean, there's roughly 4,500 traits.
Yeah. Yep.
It's one of those that we like to bash, and we like to say arrogance is shit and it's no good. But like every trait, it's got its good and bad side. It's got its benefit and drawback as well. Yeah. And this is going pretty deep here. I don't think I want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but one thing I'll say, if those of you have brought your pen and your notepad, you cannot display a trait without simultaneously displaying the opposite trait.
Yeah.
That's when I learned that, and that's sort of stuck with me. And as I've been doing my work, because as coaches, like, we're always doing our own work, unless you're a shit coach. You're always doing your own
Fingers
work.
crossed. I hope they are.
Yeah. I found I was being really humble. I was trying to be humble, because we've got this great, we pedestal anyone who's humble.
Yep.
It's like, that's the best thing you can be. So I was having trouble accepting compliments. I don't like accepting compliments because I want to be humble. So anytime someone would give me a compliment or, hey, you're doing a good job, great coach, and that, I would sort of balance it out. And in my head, I think, no, but I also fail over here, and I need to work on that. So what I found was I was always trying to humble myself, but we all humans have this need of this balance. And we do have a need in some degree to feel competent, especially those of us with the naturally masculine energy. We need to feel competent.
Yeah.
So I found that by trying to be humble, I was also trying to get that competence fix in another way. So I would go into some really technical talks, and I would explain things in such a technical way that no one could understand, subconsciously doing all this stuff and just trying to look smart because I couldn't accept the compliments.
Yeah.
So I was trying to balance it out by looking smart. So by being humble, I was also being arrogant.
Isn't that awesome? That like that self-recognition of that like quality in that journey for you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's when you see that stuff in yourself, you just laugh. It's like, you dickhead.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, we're human. Like, come on, we're gonna fail we're gonna fuck up. We're gonna act like like you would think like a very confident person may not second guess themselves. Like, I second guess myself like 50 times a day, but this is what comes back to it. I second guess myself, but I still am decisive.
Yeah.
Decisiveness trumps the confusion. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm doing this for the first time. So I just got to make a decision.
And no decision is a decision.
Oh man, I love saying that. I love saying that, especially to myself. I'm just like, I'm just going to, procrastinate for a couple of weeks, which is a decision.
Yep.
Or move forward.
So every time I'm not making a decision, I sort of ask myself, well, what decision are you making? Oh, fuck, I'm making the decision not to make a decision, which has just as many consequences and results as making a decision.
Oh, 100. Yeah, that's it.
Just do it. If you make the wrong one, if you don't make the right decision, you'll make it right.
Yeah, you'll get there. Yeah.
And you'll learn and you'll find a way. And, let's look a little bit further down the track. Okay, you've made this decision. It turns out to be the wrong one. You'll still have a roof over your head. You'll still find a way. You'll still make it. You'll still come up to a similar decision again. And next time, because you've got experience to draw on, you'll make the right decision.
Perfect. So,
but someone else who refused to make a decision, life happens to them. Everything happens to them and around them. Nothing ever happens for them. They have this perspective. They won't make decisions. And then when they get to that second point where that decision comes up again, they've got nothing to fall back on because they'd never made a commitment before. They never made a decision before.
You're saving time. Like, if you're going to procrastinate, you're going to go on loops like this for weeks and weeks and weeks. You're going to eventually in 3-4 weeks time, you're still going to have to make that decision. So would you rather make it now, earn four weeks of your life back, put that in the bank, pat yourself on the back. Oh yeah, I've just saved myself 4 weeks of time, most precious resource on the planet.
Yeah.
Or, and just get up and soldier on.
And if you find yourself constantly procrastinating, the only thing that kills procrastination is action.
Yes.
Good, bad, big, small, action kills procrastination. And when I say that to people, because people get stuck in that and they're like, oh, I'll just keep procrastinating. Like, I'm doing it now. I'm just procrastinating, but I don't know how to stop it. I just always do it. I say, take action. And it's like a deer in the headlights. They're like, oh, just take action. Like, yeah, well, then you're not procrastinating.
Yeah.
What if it's wrong? Doesn't matter. You're not procrastinating, so you've taken a step forward.
Great. Like, if it's wrong, great. Guess what? Now you're a subject matter expert. Now you can teach other people. Now you're seen as a role model. Now you're seen as a leader. Why? Because you've failed more than they have. Exactly.
Look, this guy did it. He had to go.
100%. Think about any single role model in any single category of life. Like, they're a subject matter expert because they've failed 5,000, 10,000 times.
Yeah.
Like, what's that philosophical quote? Like, the master has failed more times than the novices even tried, or something like that.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's the nail on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. So I guess another point that I had here that I wanted to talk about, because we're almost out of time. I got leadership lessons from your time serving in the military. Like, is there any, if you could impart any sort of leadership lessons or things like that that you found bringing juniors through the ranks and things like that, is there anything particular that you found that you might sort of probably use on your children in the future?
Yes. Probably one of my biggest, this is not going to be what you think it is. For me, my biggest downfall that I wish I was better at in the military was public speaking. Like, I had the experience as a soldier and a junior NCO and a team leader. I had the experience. I knew exactly what to do. I had all the knowledge, like, down to a T. However, my articulation and my presentation of public speaking was lacking. And I was excellent one-on-one, like fucking excellent. When it came to speaking in small to large groups, I lacked a lot. And so that's something I'm still working on now. And I would say from a young age, if you can instill, that quality of public speaking to your children, that's going to cover almost every single area of life. Think about, not only does it help the, immediate circle of people that they hang around, think about just their self-confidence in general when they can, speak their mind. And, a lot of miscommunication comes from not being able to speak your mind or communicate, competently about how you feel. So imagine the problems that would help with.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's so common that if we think our feelings are wrong, or we think that we're not going to get our point across, we'll just resort to something easy and usually just go with the flow and just not be honest about our feelings or our thoughts or our ideas. If we're not good at public speaking, we just say something that's easier that everyone's going to agree with, and it's just fucking vanilla.
Or even, let's make this more particular, even from a child's perspective, if they can't voice how they're really feeling, well, they just crack the shit. They're just like, like they chuck a tantrum.
Yeah.
Well, if you taught your child, like, all right, like, Renee, we've got to use our words now. So how are you feeling? Like, I know that sounds weird, but I think it's very true. And if you can get a child to speak their mind in the, like, whatever their experience with language is, like, obviously you're going to know them best, but. So
we want to try and integrate their emotional brain and their logical brain by naming their emotions.
Yeah.
That's sort of because, we can be too logical, like we were saying before, the masculine CEO that's just too logical and doesn't really use any emotion or any feminine trait or anything like that.
Yeah.
And everything's just brick by brick logical, right? You fuck things up because you need that emotional side as well. You need that creativity, that side that sort of interprets things as a human.
So and I think that comes around full circle. I think that comes around full circle excellently, because we're talking about masculinity and we're bringing up boys into this world. Like, what's a better way than to develop their feminine attributes of, communication, than to build them and like bring them up to scratch to be a competent human, because that's pretty much our role as a parent, to make them a competent human. We want them to be liked and loved by everybody. So, imagine having that, a little boy who's not afraid to speak his mind, and he's authentically expressing himself with his love and his compassion and his feelings and his emotions, but yet he's confident enough to be a leader and decisive and accumulate that masculine energy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm starting to see in my boy. That's so proud of it, because he was just saying a couple of hours ago, I think he was watching the Aladdin movie on the telly and that, and he's saying, yeah, one day I think I'm going to marry someone and just hug them. I'll just hug them.
Oh, that's awesome. Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
But also sometimes, like, if he falls off his bike or he does something funny and I'll laugh at him a bit. Yeah. Usually he takes it and he's like laughs at himself and that. And if he's not in the mood, he'll say, Dad, don't laugh at me right now. I don't like it.
Like, that's so good. Well done. Yeah. Isn't that good? Instead of just holding on to that and then biting that and swallowing that emotion, and then that coming out in other areas of life. Like he's just expressed that, man. Oh, I've got to take notes from you. I'm gonna be like, when I have a kid, I'm coming to you. I'm like, Shane, what's going on?
Yeah, well, more than happy because you've helped me a lot too with everything. I mean, one of the great things that I've gotten from you is the morning routine, right? What you told me is of something physical, something mental, something emotional, something spiritual.
Yeah.
And I've incorporated that, and it's made a huge difference. Yeah, made a huge difference. And because all those things, and I center them around my values. So my top 3 values, and I'll do something out of those 4 areas towards my top 3 values.
Yep.
Before I even see the kids in the morning.
Yep.
And by the time I get to the kids, I'm completely present.
Fulfilled. Yep.
I'm completely focused on them because I don't have any other distractions thinking I wish I could just do a workout, or I haven't really studied anything. I just want to, that unconscious desire to go and fulfill your top values because that cup's not full.
Yep.
Those cups are full. So I'm completely present, connected with my kids.
And now you're overflowing.
Yeah. Overflowing into them.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. It's
love that.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. So I don't want to hold you for too much longer. Where can people find you? Because I think there'll be a few people tonight that will be really keen to reach out.
Just keep it easy, man. Just my Facebook page, Marc Hardy, MarcHardy. Obviously, we're friends, so that prompt should come up. That's just Messenger. If you want to ask a question or anything, that would be the easiest place to find me.
Yeah, and if anyone has trouble, you can always reach out to me, and I'll put you forward for sure. So
100%.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep going on and on tonight. There's so many rabbit holes that just kind of
I love
keep
it,
going,
man.
but we might do it again sometime.
Oh, let's do it. 100%.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
maybe we'll come over on your page, or we'll do this page again, and we'll work it out.
I would love to interview you, man. I like that. Let's flip the script. I want to talk about all the children, like the child development. I want to talk about all that sort of stuff as well. Like lots of people on my page, man. Lots of people will want and need that.
Awesome. Perfect. Sarah says, that was so cool, guys. I have so much to learn about this topic. Loved it. So, yep. Thanks, Sarah. I know James got a lot out of it too. And there's been a bunch of other people chiming in and tuning in and going away. Jacob, thanks a lot for coming in. Yep. Dennis, Sam, Fiona, Jasmine. So yeah, there's been a bunch of people, and I know we've all gotten a lot out of it. I've got a lot out of it. And yeah, thanks heaps for coming on, Marc.
Yeah, no worries, Shane. I'll see you soon.
All right, mate. Catch ya.
See you, mate.